George Santos is in the news again. In fact, he's facing an investigation for being a corrupt and dishonest hack. Again, it's amazing. So back in February, the former Republican lawmaker who merely served a single term and was expelled from Congress took to X to say this.
I'm going to be there for the State of the Union in the gallery, guys. Just chill, trolls, chill, okay?
Okay, so he says he's going to be at the State of the Union. Who cares? Apparently people were paying attention to that message. Now, Santos actually did not make it to the State of the Union. Bear with me. There's a point to all of this, I promise. So he posted the following the day of the event. Watching State of the Union from an airport TV was not part of the plan. FML. F my life, basically. Okay. So he thought he could make it. Then it turns out he couldn't make it. Right. No big deal. Except it is a big deal because it turns out, and the problem is that the prediction site Kalshi was fielding millions of dollars worth of bets on who would and would not attend the State of the Union. Now, that's a little bit of a problem when members of Congress who know whether or not they're going to attend the State of the Union are also able to make bets on Kalshi. And Santos had covertly, but not covertly enough, thankfully, placed bets that he would not appear after saying that he would appear. So gross. So according to NPR, 3 people familiar with the trade claimed that Santos misled the public and turned a profit based on that deception in the tens of thousands of dollars. The trades were reported to Kalshi, who actually, to their credit, decided to freeze Santos's account for insider trading because that appears that's what happened here, right? So even Kalshi itself opened up their own investigation into Santos. But when asked by NPR about the investigations, Santos said it was, quote, news to me. I doubt that. I mean, look, guys, he is a pathological liar. That is what got him in trouble in Congress in the first place. So why would anyone even ask him anything and trust that what he responds is what he responds with is the truth? Obviously, it's not the truth. Excuse me, guys. But and when he was asked to confirm if he even had a Kalshi account, here's what George Santos said. I'm not saying yes, I'm not saying no. Okay. Obviously, he did the bet and he engaged in insider trading on this betting platform. And it's just, we live in hell. So perhaps the most hilarious comment from this exchange with NPR was this. Santos went on to say the co-founder of Kalshi, Luana Lopez Lara, is a fellow Brazilian whom he personally knows. He said he would call her to get to the bottom of whether an investigation had been launched. But the person familiar with Kalshi's investigation said Santos, the son of Brazilian immigrants, does not know Lara, a Brazilian American. This guy has a problem. Like there's something wrong with him. He cannot tell the truth. I remember when Piers Morgan would book him on his show. Why are you booking this guy on your show? How can you trust anything that comes out of his mouth? But this mistruth is decidedly on brand for Santos, who was expelled from Congress when it was determined that his campaign centered around a number of, let's be generous and say falsehoods. Because on the campaign trail, he claimed falsely the following: that his mother was working in the Trade Center during 9/11, that he was Jewish and his grandparents had survived the Holocaust, that he graduated in the top 1% of his college, none of which turned out to be true. And that did lead to federal probes into his campaign and resulted in numerous felonies being brought to light. So Santos was also charged with stealing money from his donors, money laundering, and 13 counts of wire fraud. Guy's a mess, total mess. And he was ultimately sentenced to 7 years in federal prison, of which he served only 4 months because Trump loves criminals and commuted his sentence. Of course he did. So Trump justified his decision by saying the following on Truth Social: George Santos was somewhat of a rogue, but there are many rogues throughout our country that aren't forced to serve 7 years in prison. Something tells me that Trump considers himself a bit of a rogue himself, right? Like, I mean, he probably looks at a schemer, a scammer, a huckster like George Santos and feels envy. I mean, he's a huckster himself, but I mean, George Santos's brazenness was pretty incredible. And to be fair, Trump is pretty brazen. Certainly in his second term, he's as corrupt as can be, and he doesn't care who knows it. The current batch of charges against Santos come as lawmakers grapple with how to properly regulate prediction markets, which I'm sure they'll fail to do for two different reasons. Number one, most of them are too old to even know what's going on. I'm just keeping it real. Like, Susan Collins really has no business running for re-election. She just doesn't. The woman is, I'm not trying to be cruel, but she is not doing well. You can see it. She's shaking all the time. She's much older than a member of Congress should be, especially when they have these health issues. But anyway, she decided to run for re-election, and I don't understand it. And so, am I going to trust someone like her to decide on the right regulations for these betting markets? I don't think so. And she's just one example, by the way. I don't mean to, just target one person. Congress is littered with people who have no idea what's going on in tech, don't really care to do their jobs. And the second thing is, of course, these betting markets spend handsomely on political campaigns.
Starting something new is terrifying. When we launched our Shop TYT store, I was drowning in what ifs. What if no one buys anything? What if the site looks amateurish? I almost talked myself out of it, but I took the leap anyway, and I'm glad I did, because Shopify made it incredibly easy to turn those what ifs into real sales. Shopify is the commerce platform powering millions of businesses globally. Get a load of this. It handles 10% of all US e-commerce. That's amazing. It's behind brands like Allbirds, Gymshark, and yep, our very own Shop TYT. They give you one all-in-one dashboard for inventory, payments, and analytics, so you're not juggling 10 different logins. Need product descriptions? Shopify's AI tools crank out copy and even polish your photos, and mine needs polishing. And if you get stuck, their 24/7 support team has your back. So if you got an idea for a business or a side hustle, stop what-ifing. It's time to turn those what-ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/TYT. Go to shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT.
So if they're big donors to these lawmakers, are we going to trust that they're going to come up with the right regulations? Lawmakers in Washington have been particularly concerned about how people with insider information could manipulate the markets and defraud other bettors. In April, federal prosecutors criminally charged a US Army Special Forces soldier accused of making more than $400,000 betting on the capture of Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. So Santos's case will be an interesting bellwether as to how that fight is going. I just wouldn't hold my breath. We'll see.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.